Now, there are many aspects to the scuba diving industry, and it's not all about teaching people how to scuba dive or just holding their hands while they go around a reef. Someone actually has to maintain the dive equipment, and is that quite a lucrative job, and how do you get into it? Hi all of you awesome scuba divers out there, welcome to the Scuba Diver Magazine channel, and welcome to Ask Mark, our scuba diving Q&A, where I, Mark, former dive instructor, do my best to answer your scuba diving questions. So if you do have any scuba diving questions, pop them down in the comment section, use this Ask Mark hashtag to get it featured in an up and coming video, and in the meantime I do my best to type out an answer, so you do get an answer sooner rather than later. But yeah, today I'm answering a question from Ian, all about how to become a regulator technician. So Ian Jones says, "Hi Mark, I've been diving since 1996 and I'm now heading towards retirement and looking for a retirement job. How can I become a certified equipment technician so I can service regulators?" So this is an interesting question, and it probably has multiple answers depending on where you are in the world. Most of my career has been here in the United Kingdom, and we're a little bit different to some other territories as far as I understand. So I can explain it from the British side of things. It might be different where you are. The best thing to do would probably be to write to your equipment manufacturer and just say, hey, how does it work wherever you are? They'll be better able to point you in exactly the right direction. But here in the UK, we're quite strict. I think most people know around the world that the United Kingdom, we like things done quite properly. And one of the things is that you can't get service kits directly from the manufacturer. You can't buy them as a consumer. It has to go to a dealer, a authorized dive center, and even then you can't buy it from the dealer. The dealer has to fit it for you, and it's basically there so that, yeah, someone qualified fits it and doesn't screw up your regulator, and then something happens to you, and then you or your family says that, oh hey, it was this brand's regulator that caused this incident. No, it was just whoever who didn't assemble it properly. So how it works here is each manufacturer, and it's not just one course that you go on and then you can service everything. Each manufacturer, so say Scuba Pro, Scuba Pro will run, they might have changed it since I did my Scuba Pro technicians course, but they always used to run one, maybe two servicing courses throughout the year. So they would announce these dates and say, hey, we're going to do a service technicians course at this location on this date, and they would message it to all of their Scuba Pro dealers, and you could send a technician or a want-to-be technician to go on that course, and they would basically give you each of the first stages, each of their second stages in their current range, show you how to pull them apart, reassemble them, tweak them, and get them back in fully functioning orders, fix issues, that kind of stuff, and it would basically sign you off for that current range. I did one with Apex, which was an online course, which is pretty cool. You would create an account, and then wherever you are, home or work, you would go through. It wasn't PowerPoint, but it was like a PowerPoint presentation. This is how you disassemble this regulator. This is how you rebuild it. This is like troubleshooting guides and all that kind of stuff. And that would qualify you to do that. But they only qualify you for that particular. So yeah, Scuba Pro would qualify you for Scuba Pro regulators, BCDs, and that kind of stuff. Apex, and I think it was for that particular dive center as well. So if you were a bit nomadic and you felt like traveling around, granted, you've done the Scuba Pro course, but you did it with that dive center, it didn't really apply anymore. So it's quite annoying. But yeah, those were the two ways of doing it. There's literally a course that you go on, but you have to be affiliated with a dive center. And of course, dive centers can't just send you on any brand's course. They have to be an affiliated dive center. So if they don't have an account with Scuba Pro, or they don't have an account with Mares or whatever the brand is that you want to service, then you kind of can't, or you have to then go to a different dive center, work for them, and do your 𝐬𝐻, but you can't do your 𝐬𝐻 at one dive center, or so, yeah, it gets complicated. So just kind of focus on the key brands, as it were. So yeah, we had, when I was working at a dive center, we had one chap, Martin, and he had tickets with like every brand that we were dealers with. So he could service literally anything. Pull it apart, reassemble it, but it mainly came down to like getting hold of replacement parts, because yeah, in the price lists, again, this is probably different around the world, you'd get like the consumer price list, which would have a trade price and then a recommended retail price, all of the part numbers and all that kind of stuff, and then like either at the back or in a separate like booklet, you'd have the servicing parts list, and those would have trade prices. So of course we knew how much we were spending to get that replacement like service kit or replacement front cover, whatever it was, but it wouldn't have a recommended retail price, because you can't sell that just directly to the customer. Then you would like include it in your servicing price, and you would set however much that cost to make a profit. But yeah, it mainly comes down to, basically, if you're in the UK, head to your local dive centre, because it's not something that you can do at home, and yeah, just say, hey, I'm looking for a retirement job. I'm looking to service regulators, and yeah, they'll sign you up for courses. If it's something like Apex, where it's an online course, then yeah, it's pretty quick and easy for them. If it's a more like come to us, there's pros and cons both ways. The online course is great if you're technically minded, if you know how like torque wrenches and stuff works, and how all the different things and all these kind of tools, because a lot of regulators have specialist tools to do certain jobs, and if you don't have those tools, again, it's not something that you can buy directly from the manufacturer, so you have to have literally a tool station to get hold of those tools and actually learn how to use them. But if you know how to use them, the online courses are great. If you don't really, and you need a little bit of hand holding, then yeah, the actual in-person courses are great, because you have one of the Scuba Pro technicians or whoever it is there, and if you're reassembling a Mark 25 or something and something's not going quite right, you can just say, oh hey, what's going on here, and then, oh no, actually you do it this way round, or whatever it is. So yeah, but basically I would message the manufacturers that you're ideally aiming to service, like what are the popular brands wherever you are in the world, message them and just, yeah, say, hey, I'm looking to become a service technician for your brand. What's the best steps for me? And they should be able to break it down for you. And whether that be, yeah, actually we do that, there's an online course, just kind of do this, that and the other, and we'll see you as a servicing technician, or if it's a bit stricter like here in the UK, they'll say, yeah, here, head to your closest Scuba Pro, whatever it is, dealer, and then you've got to sign up for a job with them, and that's how it works. But yeah, I imagine it depends on where you are in the world. Yeah, servicing is good fun. It can be a little frustrating at times. I didn't do a lot of it. Yeah, I've done a few courses, and that really helped to learn the functionality of what's going on inside of a regulator. BCDs are fairly basic, but you do go through like the inflators and bits and bobs. And yeah, it can be quite nice just to disassemble regulators and clean up the bits that need cleaning, replace the kind of things. It is quite fun tinkering kind of work. When everything goes fine and you reassemble it and you put it on the test bench for a breathe and it works perfectly fine, it feels nice and an accomplishment. It feels like an accomplishment. But yeah, when you assemble it and it's still like hissing, it's like, oh, okay, now I've got to disassemble it and find out what the issue is. That can be quite frustrating, but it is quite a nice, easy indoor job. And yeah, as long as you've got the like technical know-how and the actual certificate that you can do it, yeah, it is quite a good job just to get on with it. But yeah, have a chat with the manufacturer, see what they recommend, see what the rules are wherever you are. Because if you can get hold of the tools and the service kits and do it from your garage, then yeah, great. But you can't do that here in the UK. Let us know down in the comments below. what it's like in your country, if it's a little bit easier or even stricter. I don't know how it would be even stricter, but yeah, let me know down in the comment section, as well as any questions, any other questions that you might have. Pop them down in the comment section. Remember to use this @smart hashtag to get it featured in the up and coming video. Otherwise, like, share, subscribe, do all that good social media stuff. Thank you for watching, everybody, and of course, safe diving.